I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves as I stirred the pot of simmering marinara sauce. The aroma of garlic and herbs wafted through the kitchen, mingling with the tension that hung thick in the air. "I'm sorry, I got held up at work. Dinner will be ready soon," I called out, my voice strained. Jake stormed into the kitchen, his brow furrowed in anger. "You're failing as a wife and a partner. There won't be another chance. Next time I'll leave and take everything." I forced a smile, my heart sinking at his cruel words. "Is that what you think?" This was a typical evening in our suburban home, a constant power struggle between Jake and me. I'm Alexandra Miller, a 38-year-old architect, and my husband, Jake, works in advertising. Once upon a time, we were a happy couple, but the strain of juggling my demanding job, household chores, and an ungrateful, condescending husband had taken its toll. Jake's words cut deep, but I couldn't let him see the pain they caused. I had grown accustomed to his belittling comments, his utter lack of appreciation for all that I did to keep our household running smoothly. "The sauce is almost ready," I said, trying to change the subject. "Why don't you set the table?" He scoffed, grabbing a beer from the fridge. "That's your job, isn't it? Or have you forgotten your wifely duties?" I clenched my jaw, biting back the retort that threatened to spill from my lips. Arguing with Jake was a losing battle, one I had grown weary of fighting. As we sat down to eat, the tension was palpable. Jake shoveled food into his mouth, barely acknowledging my presence. I picked at my plate, my appetite long gone. "This sauce is bland," he muttered, pushing his plate away. "Just like everything else you do." I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. How had we come to this? Where was the man I had fallen in love with, the one who had promised to cherish and support me? As Jake left the table without a word, I felt a familiar sense of emptiness wash over me. This was my life now, a constant battle to please a man who seemed determined to break my spirit. But deep down, a spark of defiance flickered, a reminder that I was more than just a wife and a partner. I was a woman with dreams and ambitions, and I deserved better than this. As I lay in bed that night, the weight of Jake's constant criticism and disrespect pressed down on me like a suffocating blanket. Memories of our past arguments flooded my mind, each one a stark reminder of the growing chasm between us. I recalled the time Jake had insisted on buying a top-of-the-line home entertainment system, despite our already stretched budget. When I had tried to reason with him, he had brushed off my concerns, accusing me of being a killjoy. "It's just a one-time splurge," as he had said, waving away my objections. "We deserve to treat ourselves." But it wasn't a one-time occurrence. Jake's extravagant indulgences became a pattern, from lavish vacations to the latest tech gadgets. Each time, I was left to juggle the finances, cutting corners where I could to make ends meet. Yet, no matter how hard I tried, it never seemed to be enough for Jake. He would complain about the quality of my cooking, the state of the house, or my supposed lack of ambition. "You could be so much more if you really applied yourself," he would sneer, oblivious to the countless hours I spent at the office, pouring my heart and soul into my work. As the years passed, Jake's belittling comments and dismissive attitude chipped away at my self-worth. I found myself second-guessing my every decision, questioning my abilities as a wife and a partner. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was the one holding our household together, the one making sacrifices and compromises while Jake indulged his every whim. The realization stung, but it also ignited a newfound sense of determination within me. I couldn't continue living like this, constantly walking on eggshells, afraid to voice my own needs and desires. I deserved better, and I knew it was time to take a stand. The next morning, I found myself pouring out my frustrations to my closest friend, Lauren, over the phone. "I just don't know what to do anymore, Lauren," I confessed, my voice thick with emotion. "Jake is so dismissive of everything I say or do. He makes me feel like I'm constantly failing as a wife and partner." Lauren's soothing voice came through the line. "Alex, you're one of the strongest, most capable women I know. Don't let that jerk make you doubt yourself." I sighed heavily, grateful for her unwavering support. "It's just, I feel so alone in this marriage. Jake doesn't listen, doesn't care about my needs or concerns." As if on cue, Jake's voice echoed from the living room. "Alexandra, where's my clean shirt for the presentation today?" I pinched the bridge of my nose, suppressing the urge to scream. "Hold on, Lauren." Duty calls. Placing the phone down, I hurried to the laundry room, retrieving Jake's freshly pressed shirt. When I returned, he snatched it from my hands without a word of thanks. "This is why I need you to be more on top of things," he sneered. "I can't afford to look unprepared in front of my clients." My jaw clenched as I fought back the retort that burned my tongue. Instead, I plastered on a fake smile. "Of course, dear, I'll do better next time." Retreating to the bedroom, I picked up the phone, my hands trembling with barely contained frustration. "You still there?" I asked Lauren, my voice strained. "Yeah, I'm here. Are you okay?" She could sense the tension in my voice. "I honestly don't know how much more of this I can take," I confessed, sinking onto the bed. "Jake makes me feel so small, so worthless. It's like nothing I do is ever good enough." Lauren's tone was firm, yet comforting. "Alex, you can't let him treat you like that. You deserve so much better." Her words resonated deep within me, igniting a flicker of defiance that had long been smothered by Jake's constant belittling. "You're right," I said, my resolve strengthening. "I can't keep living like this." As I hung up the phone, a sense of determination washed over me. I had to take control of my life, to break free from Jake's toxic grasp. I deserved to be happy, to be respected and valued. That night, as Jake settled in front of the TV, oblivious to my inner turmoil, I found myself drawn to the sound of his phone buzzing with an incoming call. Against my better judgment, I crept closer, straining to hear the muffled conversation. What I heard next shattered my world. Jake's dismissive behavior escalated over the next few days, his contempt for me becoming increasingly apparent. No matter how hard I tried, nothing I did was good enough in his eyes. "This house is a mess," he spat one evening as he surveyed the living room. "Can't you keep anything in order?" I bit my tongue, reminding myself that lashing out would only make the situation worse. "I've been working late at the office this week," I explained calmly. "But I'll make sure to tidy up tomorrow." He scoffed, shaking his head. "That's just another excuse. You're lazy and you're letting our home fall apart." His words cut deep, but I refused to let him see how much they hurt me. I had grown accustomed to his belittling remarks, but that didn't make them any easier to bear. As the tension between us reached a boiling point, I found myself questioning everything: my self-worth, my capabilities, my very identity. Jake's constant criticism had taken a toll, leaving me feeling diminished and insignificant. One night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, a realization dawned on me. I couldn't continue living like this, trapped in a cycle of emotional abuse and disrespect. Something had to change, and that change had to start with me. With a newfound sense of determination, I slipped out of bed and began packing a small bag with essentials. My hands trembled slightly, but my resolve was unwavering. I had to break free from Jake's toxic grasp, to reclaim the sense of self that he had so callously stripped away. As I zipped up the bag, a wave of relief washed over me. I was taking control of my life, making a choice for myself, perhaps for the first time in years. Quietly, I crept out of the bedroom and made my way to the front door. With one last glance around the house that had once been a home, I stepped out into the cool night air, leaving the weight of Jake's emotional abuse behind. My heart raced as I slid into the driver's seat of my car, gripping the steering wheel tightly. I knew where I needed to go, to the one person who had always been there for me, the one constant source of support and understanding. Lauren's house was a sanctuary, a safe haven where I could finally let my guard down and confront the painful reality of my crumbling marriage. As I pulled up to her doorstep, the porch light flickered on, and Lauren's concerned face appeared in the window. She must have sensed the urgency in my late-night arrival, for she flung open the door before I even had a chance to knock. "Alex," she breathed, enveloping me in a warm embrace. "What happened?" And in that moment, the walls I had so carefully constructed began to crumble, and the tears I had held back for so long began to flow. Lauren ushered me inside, her arms wrapped protectively around my shoulders. As we settled on her couch, the weight of everything I had endured came crashing down, and I found myself pouring out the painful details of my ordeal. "He's been so cruel, Lauren," I sobbed, my body shaking with each anguished breath. "No matter what I do, it's never enough. He belittles me, makes me feel worthless." Lauren's expression was one of shock and outrage, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Oh, Alex, I had no idea it was this bad," she murmured, squeezing my hand reassuringly. I nodded, wiping away the tears that streaked my cheeks. "I didn't want to burden you with my problems, but I can't go on like this anymore. It's slowly killing me inside." For what felt like hours, I unleashed every pent-up emotion, every ounce of pain and frustration that had been building within me. Lauren listened intently, offering a supportive ear and a comforting embrace whenever the tears threatened to overwhelm me. As the first rays of dawn peeked through the curtains, Lauren spoke up, her voice steady and resolute. "Alex, you can't go back to that toxic environment. You need to take steps to protect yourself." I nodded warily, knowing deep down that she was right. The thought of confronting Jake filled me with dread, but I knew that for my own well-being, I had to sever ties and start anew. "First things first," Lauren said, grabbing a pen and paper. "We need to make a list of all your shared accounts, bank, credit cards, utilities. You'll need to separate yourself financially." Together, we meticulously went through each account, making note of everything that needed to be addressed. With each item checked off, I felt a sense of empowerment growing within me, a realization that I was taking control of my life. "And you'll need to document everything," Lauren added, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Every incident, every cruel remark, it'll all be crucial evidence if this turns into a legal battle." I nodded solemnly, already envisioning the long road ahead. But, for the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope, a belief that I could reclaim the life that had been slowly slipping away. Later that day, as Lauren headed off to work, I made the most important phone call of my life, to a divorce lawyer. The voice on the other end was calm and reassuring, guiding me through the initial steps and offering a sense of direction amidst the chaos. As I hung up the phone, a weight seemed to lift from my shoulders. I had taken the first step towards freedom, towards a life free from Jake's emotional abuse and manipulation. And with Lauren's unwavering support by my side, I knew that no matter how difficult the path ahead might be, I would emerge stronger and more resilient than ever before. Several days had passed since I had taken refuge at Lauren's house, and I was slowly beginning to find my footing again. Her unwavering support had been a lifeline, helping me navigate the turbulent waters of separating from Jake. One evening, as Lauren and I sat sipping tea in her cozy living room, a loud pounding at the door shattered the peaceful moment. I exchanged a worried glance with Lauren, my heart pounding in my chest. "Stay here," she whispered, setting down her mug and heading towards the door. I strained to listen, my body tense with apprehension. The pounding grew more insistent, accompanied by a familiar voice. "Alex, I know you're in there." Jake's gruff tone sent shivers down my spine. "Open up, we need to talk." Lauren hesitated, her hand hovering over the doorknob. "Alex, it's your decision," she called out, seeking my approval. With a deep breath, I steadied my nerves and stood up. "Let him in." The door swung open, and there he stood, Jake, his disheveled appearance a stark contrast to the polished exterior he typically portrayed. His eyes were wild, darting between Lauren and me. "Alex, thank God," he breathed, stepping inside without invitation. "We need to talk, sort things out." I crossed my arms defiantly, steeling myself against his pleas. "There's nothing to sort out, Jake. It's over." His expression hardened, any semblance of desperation quickly replaced by his trademark arrogance. "You can't be serious. You're throwing everything away over a little rough patch?" I shook my head in disbelief. "A little rough patch? Jake, you've been emotionally abusive and manipulative for years. I can't live like that anymore." His eyes narrowed, and I could see the rage simmering just beneath the surface. "You're being ridiculous. We have a good life together, a nice home, a steady income. What more could you want?" My hands balled into fists at my sides, anger coursing through my veins. "Respect, Jake, basic human decency, qualities you seem incapable of offering." Lauren stepped forward, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. "I think it's time for you to leave, Jake. Alex has made her decision, and you need to respect that." Jake opened his mouth to protest, but a new voice cut through the tension, freezing us all in our tracks. Well, look who's caught in the middle of a lover's quarrel." My gaze snapped towards the doorway where a stunningly beautiful woman stood, her lips curled into a sly smirk. Recognition flickered in Lauren's eyes, and she gasped audibly. "Natasha? What are you doing here?" The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension, each of us frozen in shock as the pieces began to fall into place. Natasha's smirk widened as she took in our stunned expressions. "You don't look surprised to see me, sis," she purred, her gaze fixed on Lauren. "Or should I say, former sis? It's been a while, hasn't it?" Lauren's face drained of color as she struggled to find her voice. "Natasha, what are you doing here?" Jake shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting between the two sisters. "Look, I can explain." But Natasha cut him off with a derisive laugh. "Explain what, Jake? That you've been lying to both of these women?" She turned to me, her eyes glinting with something akin to pity. "Did you really think you were the only one?" The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, and suddenly, everything made sense. Jake's late nights, his dismissive behavior, his emotional distance. He had been carrying on an affair right under my nose. "You," I seethed, my hands balling into fists at my sides. "You lying, cheating bastard!" Jake held up his hands in a placating gesture, but the damage was done. His betrayal was laid bare, and there was no coming back from this. "Alex, please, let me explain," he pleaded, but his words fell on deaf ears. Lauren stepped forward, her expression a mix of hurt and anger. "Explain what, Jake? How you've been stringing along my own sister while treating my best friend like dirt." Natasha's smirk faltered as she turned to face her sister. "Lauren, I had no idea." But Lauren wasn't having it. "Save it, Natasha. I don't want to hear your excuses." The tension in the room was palpable, each of us grappling with the weight of Jake's deception. I could feel the walls closing in, the anger and hurt threatening to consume me. It was Jake who broke the silence, his voice tinged with desperation. "Look, I made a mistake, okay? But we can work through this. Alex, you know how much I love you." I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head in disbelief. "Love me? You have a funny way of showing it, Jake." Turning to Lauren, I saw the same fire burning in her eyes. "We can't let him get away with this," I said, my voice steeled with determination. Lauren nodded, her jaw set. "Absolutely not. He's going to pay for what he's done." Jake's eyes widened as he realized the gravity of the situation. "Now, let's not do anything rash." But it was too late. The wheels were already in motion, and there was no stopping the avalanche of consequences that he had set in motion with his lies and deceit. "I'm calling my lawyer," I stated, pulling out my phone. "This isn't just about our marriage anymore, Jake. You've hurt too many people, and it's time you faced the consequences." In the days and weeks that followed, a sense of empowerment washed over me. With Lauren and Natasha's support, I found the strength to stand up to Jake's manipulation and deceit. True to my word, I contacted David Harris, a seasoned divorce lawyer, and set the legal proceedings in motion. Jake's protests fell on deaf ears as the evidence of his infidelity and emotional abuse mounted. As the case progressed, I watched in quiet satisfaction as Jake's carefully constructed facade crumbled around him. His once prestigious job at the advertising firm was terminated, his colleagues and friends growing increasingly distant as the ugly truth came to light. Even Natasha, once blinded by Jake's charming lies, turned her back on him, disgusted by the depths of his betrayal. She found solace in rekindling her relationship with Lauren, the two sisters bonding over the shared pain of Jake's deception. With each small victory, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders, the shackles of my toxic marriage slowly loosening their grip. Jake's attempts at reconciliation were met with steely resolve as Lauren, Natasha, and I presented a united front against his manipulation. In the end, the legal battle was a resounding triumph. Jake was left to face the consequences of his actions, stripped of his assets and reputation. The once confident man was reduced to a mere shadow of himself, his arrogance replaced by a pathetic desperation. As I walked out of the courthouse, the divorce decree in hand, a sense of freedom washed over me. It was as if a heavy burden had been lifted, and I could finally breathe again. In the months that followed, I found myself rediscovering the woman I had once been. Confident, ambitious, and unafraid to pursue my dreams. With Lauren and Natasha by my side, I embarked on a journey of self-discovery, embracing new opportunities and experiences that had once seemed out of reach. One warm summer evening, Lauren and I sat on her patio, sipping cool drinks and basking in the glow of the setting sun. Our laughter rang out, unencumbered by the weight of the past. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Lauren mused. a contented smile playing on her lips. I nodded, my gaze drifting towards the horizon. It's hard to imagine where I'd be if I hadn't found the courage to leave Jake. Lauren reached across the table, giving my hand a gentle squeeze. You're a survivor, Alex. You always have been. A comfortable silence settled between us, broken only by the gentle chirping of birds in the distance. It was in these quiet moments that I found true peace, a sense of contentment that had eluded me for far too long. You know, I said, breaking the silence, I heard Jake's been living out of his car lately. Lauren's eyes widened, and then she let out a hearty laugh. Serves him right, the bastard. We dissolved into fits of laughter, reveling in the sweet taste of justice and revenge. Jake's downfall was complete, his once inflated ego reduced to nothing more than a punchline. As the laughter subsided, I raised my glass in a silent toast, to new beginnings, to the strength of friendship, and to the unwavering belief that karma always finds a way.